Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of the Pixel Crashers podcast, a podcast where we discuss our thoughts on gaming news. I am Angelus de Mortiel, together with Kev the Gamer,
Glorious!
Xaiphen,
Yes, excellent.
and a giant cup of coffee as held by Deathshroud09. Oh crap. Hey, look at that, guys. I'm totally on top of it today, by the way.
You didn't unmute us, did you?
No, I unmuted you guys. I just forgot to stop playing the intro, as it started looping back around. Pro time, guys. Pro time. Anyway, so...
Production value. Hashtag production value.
Fire the video engineer. Fire him now.
Yeah, the producer of this show is an amateur as fuck. Just saying, man. He's absolute garbage at doing this. So, in any case, it's been a fun 2 weeks, guys. It's been a fun 2 weeks. I have some fun stuff going on. What about you guys? Have you, played some games of some sort?
No.
I think so.
What are games?
All right, guys. Well, that's the podcast. Have a nice night.
I actually started a new game today that was not, an open beta. Technomancer. Not a beta. Technomancer is a higher quality indie game. So far, it's got some rough.
Technomancer.
Yeah, he actually did a thoughts review thing on it. I think I remember.
Yeah, I think it's all right so far. It's a sci-fi game, which of course is going to draw my attention.
From what I remember, it actually got criticized a lot.
It ran like shit.
Well, it wasn't just the performance. I was meaning, wasn't it that like the depth of the game or something like that felt really, really shallow? I don't know. Xaiphen, you could probably say more because you've actually played it recently.
Yeah, well, I've just started on it, so as far as how the story follows through, I don't know. The biggest thing that I see an error in so far is actually animation matchup with dialogue. The animation is excessively detailed, but the sync is not completely proper on that. It's one of those things is they have a lot of compartmentalized aspects of high quality that you'd see from a AAA game, but they're not properly lined up, if that makes sense. Yeah. There's a lot of good quality aspects to it, but they don't mesh together perfectly. That's where I'm seeing the biggest error in the game so far. But as far as the engine goes, the voice acting, the start of the story is a little bit slow, but it's also an RPG, so those sometimes start out a little bit slow. But yeah, so far it's yeah.
So which stance are you taking? I like the staff stance.
Yeah, I'm going with staff Technomancer.
That's the one I had the most fun with too.
Yeah.
You're watching Godzilla or something.
Godzilla. Go
yeah.
Godzilla.
But yeah, the game looks like it might pick up pretty decently. I'll see how it goes from here. Again, it's a role-playing game, so I only get into those so often anymore. I used to be really hooked on them.
Well, isn't Grind Frame still technically an RPG?
No.
Yeah, no. I'd call that action hack and slash type game.
Yeah.
Action RPG hack and slash grind game. Got it.
Yeah, pretty much.
With some shooting RPG elements.
Yeah.
There's not it's hard to be a role-playing game, although recently they've developed a role, but starting out on the game there wasn't really a role. Your role was go and shoot things and cut things down. So that really takes away from the role-playing aspect of a role-playing game.
Yes, it does.
It's gotten better as far as the role goes, but it's still, I don't really consider it a full-fledged role to play.
So it's Fallout 4.
Sorry.
I'm cracking on Bethesda already.
It's becoming a favorite pastime of me talking shit about Bethesda. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I mean, we haven't talked about Bethesda on the show in a while.
Fair. I've been talking about them. I've been getting my Bethesda bitching out elsewhere. The one of the most anti-consumer companies out there that has somehow brainwashed everybody into thinking that they're actually good. Yeah.
Don't listen. He's an Elder Scrolls fanboy.
Hashtag fuck Bethesda.
And Ubisoft.
Hashtag
So
Konami and
funny.
Bethesda are the same company.
I had a funny Bethesda related experience this weekend in that.
Mm-hmm.
I
Did you
work at a
finally get it
grocery
on the
store,
video?
and I walked. I walked into Kev, you gotta stop being on point. I walked into. I walked
Kev,
into
stop being so perceptive.
I walked into the office and I saw it was like a Vault 111 bag on the counter.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whose bag is that? I asked the person that was in there, and they were like, oh, it's our loss prevention guy's bag. And I was like, my mind was just like instantly blown because basically security. Because it's just this like massive, like jacked looking dude who I would not like peg is a gamer at all. And
basically his arms like, and he's games.
Yeah, I talked to him about it. He's like, yeah, man, I paid way too much for that. And then we started talking about his PC build they just did. He just like got like a $4,000 like rig that he set up, some ridiculous nonsense. Like, dude, what are you even doing?
I can
I love that we
sympathize.
live in a day and age now that you can game pretty happily on a $250 PC.
Yes, you can. However, that's not to say that it's not glorious to build.
No, I'm not saying you should spend more. I'm saying, but the fact that you can do like a $200 PC build and get some really good gaming out of it.
I should probably go back on the fact that. But yeah, continue.
Okay, I was gonna say,
like the fact that you get like what I don't know, maybe one of the older i3s and like a GTX 760.
Mm-hmm.
And you can happily game on that.
I've been happily gaming on an i3 4330 and a GTX 650 Ti Boost for 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been completely happy. Like, the only time I think I did suffer, to be fair, and it wasn't me. I didn't notice it. It was my stream that noticed it, was whenever I was streaming Ghost Recon Wildlands. And although I was seeing a smooth experience and wasn't experiencing problems, aside from the fucking vehicle controls in that game, which are garbage.
Garbage on mouse and keyboard?
Garbage, period. Like, even I even decided to throw down a controller and just see how that helped. It was still pretty bad. So it's...
Damn. Sounds like Watch Dogs, the original Watch Dogs.
Yeah, but aside from that, the stream was getting variable from 10 to 20 frames per second. So it was like a slideshow. And I'm like, I have no response for that. It's just that my computer, the GPU, could not handle both the stream buffering and the game buffering at the same time. So that was the first time I've actually experienced a problem, and I didn't personally experience it. It was the people watching me. Aside from that, though, I've been gaming happily on it and have not had any problem. Yeah, I don't game at ultra, and I don't game at 144 frames per second, unless it's Stellaris, in which case, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you still generally get 60?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Almost every game I play. I think Dragon Age Inquisition, which was not the best optimized, that one will occasionally drop to the high 40s or mid 50s on occasion if there's a lot of shit going on. I've noticed frame spikes, but otherwise, though, yeah, it stays at 60 pretty solidly.
And I think that's one of the fallacies to PC gaming. People think you have to upgrade constantly. People keep telling me, upgrade your 970. I'm like, for what?
Yeah,
it's still strong at 1440p.
It's the uses of an upgrade is usually in relation to some other upgrade. It's not like, oh, there's new games that upgrade your hardware. No, not
but that's what a lot of people are doing now. Or a lot of people are upgrading because there's a new card out. Like, oh, okay, well, I had a 980 Ti, but the 1080 is out now, so I'm going to upgrade.
Well, those are the enthusiasts, right? Those are the enthusiasts.
Oh, these are guys that just think your games are going to stop working. I think they don't understand how games work on the computer.
No,
they think you need to have the. It's Bullet Berry said in the video I watched earlier. People think you need like a $4,000 PC just to game, and equated it to somebody riding a bike and saying, I can't afford it, or I can't afford a Ferrari, so I have to ride this bike. And that's how people look at PC gaming.
And that's an argument Rags has used a lot too in the past. You know, it's a similar thing. It's like, oh, I've got a Chevy Pinto or whatever, but I can't afford to get a new car because Ferraris cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's a similar argument to that, and and you hear it a lot from console fanboys trying to somehow make PC gaming seem less viable as an option. Is that they will use arguments like it's too expensive, you have to upgrade constantly. What's some of the other ones? Oh, like the one I love the most.
You don't get games. You have to wait for every game. I've heard them all.
Yeah. Oh no, my favorite
games
one
are always broken.
My favorite argument that they'll bring up is, oh, you have to get all your games from different stores, and that's just obnoxious. I'm like,
how is that different than shopping at Best Buy and then Target and GameStop or Walmart?
Hold that thought. Because all those games you get from Best Buy, Walmart, whatever, those are all still first-party sales. They all still charge $69.99 for $59.99 for every damn game. Whereas Steam, GOG, Origin, whatever, might have different prices. It's called market competition. And it's a good thing. It's not an argument against PC. It's an argument for PC. Because if
I will say in favor of Best Buy, their price is actually usually pretty good. Usually if you wait like a month or two after the game comes out,
they lower it.
You can get it for like $20-$30. A lot of these games.
Okay.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing, is a lot of brick and mortar stores are trying to compete with, digital sales venues.
Mm-hmm. It was the Best Buy, I think, did like a permanent price drop on Watch Dogs 2 to like $30.
Yeah.
And that game's been out it came out in like December?
Yeah.
Late November?
Yep.
That's not bad.
And the thing is that I feel like that a lot of times that argument gets used and people don't understand and we're kind of spilling over the console war discussion we had last week, right? That's all the marketing nonsense that came from the console war. That essentially that PC is not a viable experience, and here are the reasons why, and all of them are bullshit. Like you can't play it on a couch in your living room. No, you can. I
use my Steam Link for that.
Well, yeah, you have a Steam Link as one option, or a NVIDIA Shield, whatever. A link interface to interface it to your couch, or like me, I have a workstation that has some moderate graphics to it. It's actually, funny enough, better than my desktop because it has an i7 6820HQ, which is a real quad-core i7 with hyper-threading. And the Quadro M4000 that's in it is better than my desktop, my 650 Ti boost. So, but in any case, I can throw that on my bedroom TV and Steam controller. I'm gaming in my bedroom. Or if I'm playing Stellaris, I have my it's actually still in the bedroom. My Logitech K830 wireless keyboard with a little touchpad on it that works for Stellaris. I wouldn't recommend it for like any other game.
Yeah, unless you're using a Steam controller itself, touchpads, trackpads are not great for PC gaming. Trying to game on a laptop. Somebody would definitely have to have an add-on mouse for that in most cases. But that's if you look at linking options. You can also build compact computers that fit right on your entertainment center that are not much bigger than an.
Yeah, the HTPC builds.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then going back to the touchpads, I wanted to add a funny story. I remember trying to play the Mass Effect 3 demo on my laptop with the touchpad. So I have WASD going, and under it, I'm trying to aim with the touchpad. My wrist keeps hitting the touchpad. I'm like, man, why do people like this? and I thought, what if I use a mouse? Oh, yes.
And then everything changed.
My first run through of Mass Effect 1 with the touchpad on my laptop when I first got into PC gaming.
That had to have been rough.
Yeah.
I got used to it. I adapted.
Oh.
Yeah, you do. But and you can build compact computers that are a reasonable size to fit on your entertainment center, or you can buy pre-builts that are smaller than consoles and more powerful. I don't like plugging Alienware because I overall think they're overpriced, but the alpha console type PCs are small, they're powerful and they're well priced for the hardware that they pack behind them.
Yep.
You know,
the alpha is actually one of those exceptions, I think, to the rule.
Yeah.
I
yes,
think
they're
actually really well
priced
for what they are. I'm considering at some point grabbing an alpha. Like not the I don't think I'd grab the i3 one, but grabbing one of the alphas and maybe using that to replace my Steam Link. Because while the Steam Link is great, I want to be able to go all Wi-Fi throughout the house, and the Steam Link, you want to hardwire everything.
You want to definitely get WiGig at that point.
Well, you can run this. The Steam Link runs pretty adequately if you have a consistent, strong, and uninterfered AC signal on there. That 877, 867 megabits per second is adequate for Steam Link, or not even like Steam in-home streaming. Yeah. I've tested it out. It works well with that as long as you don't run into interference issues, because its range is limited, and a WiGig would be even worse. Better streaming possibility with WiGig, but you definitely have more interference issues than AC.
It depends on the size of your house. I mean, if you've got a larger house, at that point you probably also have probably a bit more money, and you can afford to run Ethernet through your walls.
Exactly.
There was whenever I was shopping for a house, one of the houses that we were looking to buy, it was actually wired for Cat 5 throughout the whole house.
Yeah. You can do a ghetto rigging way around that is adequate too, because what you're looking at is half a gig megabit, or 500 megabit per second is the Steam streaming optimum. If you're doing wireless N, that's only 300. That's where you can start noticing issues. There is what is known as power line adapters that run an effective Ethernet throughout your electrical system. That was weird.
Yeah,
they run Ethernet through your power outlets, and they don't run into the interference issues that you do with wireless. And you can get ones that can run 500 megabits per second. And I've read a lot of successes with using Steam in-home streaming over those. And in some cases, it's a cheaper option, or an easier option, and not necessarily cheaper, but easier option than going through Ethernet wiring, hardwiring throughout your house.
Yeah, power line networking does have its shortfalls, though. You have to have relatively modern day wiring in your house.
Relatively modern day can be like from the 1950s.
I wouldn't recommend 1950s.
They still had... my house was built in 58, and it does not have the most up-to-date wiring on there. There's a few places here and there, but I tested it out very successfully with it. It didn't work with in-home streaming as well, because the power line adapter I had briefly was only 200 megabit per second. You do need to get one that has 500 on there, but your interference issues you can run into is if you're running more than 2 points on that power line, because then they can be set up to work with each other, but they still have more of a potential for interference than if you have 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just thinking, like, at least I can say for my setup, I'm almost all Wi-Fi everywhere. It works great. I've been on all Wi-Fi for almost 2 years now. Which is funny, two people say you can't game on Wi-Fi. I've been gaming on Wi-Fi for years.
Bullshit.
I game and stream on Wi-Fi.
Like, listen,
been doing so for a while.
My workstation runs off of AC, which arguably might not be the best example, because that's currently the high-end mainstream. Yeah, there's a WiGig out there that's becoming emergent. Like, there's an upgrade to my router, the Nighthawk, I think X10 or whatever. That's a WiGig version of my router. But aside from that, AC is kind of the high-end standard, and yeah, like I've even done it on wireless N and not had much problem gaming. Now, if I want to do in-home streaming, that does require a higher grade of bandwidth, so I usually do that off of AC. But yeah, I have no problem. Like I streamed The Witcher 3 to that laptop. That was what I was talking about with the. I forgot to mention that even though the graphics card's more powerful, I still notice myself having a better time streaming The Witcher 3 than playing it locally. But yeah, it works great.
That's funny.
It's actually, yeah, I don't know what that's about. I'm assuming I'm gonna chalk it up to it being a Quadro and not a GTX.
Actually, it's not necessarily the case. There's a couple of issues on there. I think it has the GPU a little bit, but I think more of the effect is actually in the CPU. Even though you have a quad core on your laptop, it may be relying on the heavier single thread performance of your i3.
Well, like I said, that laptop is spec for spec. Like if you just look at all the specs, the single core performance, it's got a higher clock speed than my desktop does. It's a 3.3 gigahertz quad core with hyperthreading.
But that's only when you hit the turbo, right?
I can reach over and look because it's right beside me.
Yeah, usually laptops are clocked pretty low so they don't, catch on fire.
So the 6820 and above, there's also a Xenon variant of this, are not normal on there. I take that back. It's a 3.2 gigahertz, but I think that is turbo clock possibly because I think that it's 2.7. But a lot of them i7s you see are actually dual core with hyper-threaded in laptops. It's once you get to the HQ models that they're actually real i7s. But yeah,
there's something I need to point out here real quick because we're starting to run into a problem, and I'm only going to make this worse. We're getting a little bit too techie in our talk, so we might want to move on to something that's a little bit more, friendly for everyone. Kev's falling asleep. Travis is taking Major's place and reading Reddits while we're on the podcast.
I'm reading Facebook. So
Travis froze up. He's been excessively still for a while. I'm kind of concerned.
So I've been playing Neo.
That's what he's doing. He's playing Neo right now.
I took a break off of it today because I'm stuck at like the hour and a half mark. This monster keeps killing me. I can almost get through the section. I get like halfway through it. And then the same monster kills me because I don't have enough space to kill it. And if I can get away from him, but then he just respawns. So I gotta get good.
Yeah. Is that like Joe? He was sitting there talking about, I finally beat this monster in Bloodborne. I was like, wait, you weren't able to beat something in casual mode Bloodborne? Like, come on now.
Well, you're fighting against the bad frame rate.
Oh, fair point. Yeah.
Man, Dark Souls extra hard mode.
He is there.
Play on it 15 FPS.
He's there, but his camera looks frozen.
Yeah.
Mine?
Yeah. It's
either that or you're doing an excessively good impersonation of a mannequin, complete with ventriloquist act.
What's that movement?
Did we just lose him?
Yeah.
I think he just reset it himself.
Yeah.
Intentional.
So what's that?
I'm not sure that it's going to fix the problem, though.
Yeah.
There we go.
We're good.
What's that movement going on where people all like freeze and try to pretend to be mannequins?
Freeze frame?
Yeah, freeze frame.
Mannequin challenge.
The mannequin challenge. Yep, that's the one.
Planking.
Yep. No, it's the mannequin challenge. Like you see some of them are actually creepy good. Like you're just like, okay, that is actually really weird.
Is that a real person?
No. I think my favorite one that I saw was in a dispensary. It was really, really good.
Well, everybody there is like a mannequin.
Or not dispensary, but like a grow, like it was at a grow op, and like they had a dude like hold another guy up like in the plant, and he was like swimming.
Oh, yeah, no. The one that I saw that really impressed me was when these guys are in this club, and the DJ just like cuts the music, and they freeze frame it. And then like the MC runs around with a camera at the crowd, and the crowd is all frozen. And it's just like this. It's really creepy, and I'm like, okay, those guys are good. That's a little too much for me. I'm kind of getting some weird like some horror movie vibes going on here. But in any case, though, back to gaming. So Kev, you have been playing Neo. What do you think of Neo so far? The Japanese version of Dark Souls.
I like it. Still racist, but I like it.
Wait, what? Am I the only one who caught that?
It's called Neo Japanese Dark Souls, and I was fucking with him earlier this week calling him was racist.
Yep.
For that.
Because he was like From Games is Japanese. I'm like, yeah, but Dark Souls isn't a Japanese themed game. It's like medieval-ish, I guess.
It's very medieval.
Yeah, well, it's got some other stuff in there too. It's not purely medieval, but it's definitely not Oriental.
Not samurais like Neo is.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're like, oh, the main character's white. I'm like, he's got a fucking samurai sword, Kev. He's got a katana that he's using as his main weapon.
I have a big ass axe. What you talking about?
Oh, you have an axe now?
I have an axe and a samurai sword.
And you have chi stances, because that's totally a Western philosophy, right?
I'd like to remind you that Samurai Champloo is a thing.
Samurai Champloo.
But anyway, I'm having fun with it. I actually like the stances and the fact that I feel like in this game, as opposed to Dark Souls, you really have to watch your stamina.
Mm-hmm.
If you do not watch your stamina, but there are like a trick, like if you hit, they'll give you these blue lights or fly around you like fireflies almost. If you hit R1 when they fly around you, you'll get all your stamina back. Otherwise, if you run out of stamina, you're going to get wrecked very quickly.
That's good.
It's big on stamina management as opposed to Dark Souls, where it was mostly about, wait and attack, watch their patterns. You have to watch their patterns in Neo too, but not as much.
I guess that does give you a different feel to it, because I feel like Bloodborne, yes, granted Bloodborne was also from Software, whereas Neo is not. But
the combat is different in Bloodborne. Like Bloodborne, you did have to be offensive. You actually got punished for being defensive.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too in Bloodborne though is that there was still patterns that you kind of would work around. It was very much in the same vein as Dark Souls, so it's kind of nice that Neo kind of goes a different route.
Mm-hmm. If you say so.
But yeah. So I haven't actually talked to Travis in 2 weeks, so I don't actually know if he's actually even alive. If we're talking to the ghost of Travis.
Well, I mean, I did die in, the massive storm, right? You remember that, right?
Yeah, I did.
That was a year ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have no sense of time.
His house is still
great.
His house is still floating in the Atlantic.
So talk to me about what games that I've played specifically.
Yeah.
No new
Flood
games.
Simulator.
Yeah, Flood Simulator 2017.
Crazy Floridian Simulator 2016.
I play it. I dig it. Somebody fund it.
Some historical games like the one named Katrina.
Yeah. Katrina Simulator. Ooh, rough.
That's only if you're in Houston.
True.
I've gone back to some of the old favorites. I played Gungeon, Into the Gungeon, because they came out with the...
Yeah, they did a major update for it recently.
Yeah, the supply drop update. Added a new boss, some new items, some new NPCs, some new little secrets. It's been fun. I still like the game. It'd be better if I had higher FPS in it, but what wouldn't,
One of these
right?
days.
One of these days.
One of these days he'll actually get a PC.
Mm-hmm. He claims he's going to out of his tax return. I don't believe him.
His tax return is going to be, I want to buy a PC, but guns.
I've been thinking about selling one of my kidneys as well.
Try selling sperm. It works.
And also, if you have that concern of building one yourself, there's that whole alpha option that we'd mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
right.
that one's relatively nicely priced too. I'm just saying, and that is a very competent gaming PC. And then I think as a group we can all kind of discuss the whole Kev is super ecstatic because everybody finally hopped on the Rainbow Six Siege bandwagon.
And he's not even playing it.
No, I'm on it. He's on it. We played on stream.
Oh yeah, that's right.
A few days ago. Or no, last week. Yeah, it was last week.
Yeah, but what I'm doing is I'm jumping back and forth between Neo and Rainbow Six.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that essentially, so I realized that and I'm going to talk about it here because I realized that, so there's some context on this, since this was in between the two podcasts. Ghost Recon Wildlands is a fucking disappointment. It is GTA Jungle Edition. That's what it felt like. Granted, on stream, most people couldn't really see well enough because it was like watching a fucking horrible slideshow. But essentially, I would hop into a vehicle and it was like playing GTA all over again. Cars flipping through the air, like, you know, just all sense of authenticity out the fucking window. And it's like, yeah, this is not, and like they essentially cut corners on gunplay and strategic encounters for the sake of having this big, massive open world. And I feel
Man,
like,
I wonder what the entire point
like,
of Tom Clancy games is.
Right?
Let's just throw it out the window.
Yeah.
When you talk about it like that too, that's the problem with games these days. And I was actually going to make a video on this too, but fuck it, I'll talk about it here.
Yeah.
It's the linear versus the open world idea where everything is going open world now. And we're losing depth in games, I think, a lot of it because of it.
Why does
because we're spending so much time and giving us these huge worlds with tons of little fetch quests, and they take time on that, and they don't take time on creating.
They got these fetch quests because look, you can run around in an open world. Go get this thing in this open world that you can run around in.
In Wildlands, that took the place of, like, literally it throws me into this world, no real context, anything, and I'm geotagging these gasoline canisters and these weapon caches for the rebels, and I'm like, but there's no there was never any introduction to that quest. It was just like, hey, do these things. I'm like,
you know,
why am I doing this? Like, there's no context.
I'd like to point out, I'd like to make an assertion here. Rather than companies taking the time to create open worlds and having that be getting in the way of creating quality content, and that they're spending too much time on open worlds, perhaps we should think about open worlds perhaps taking less time and less effort on in regards to the developer, because you think of an open world, you automatically think, oh well, they must have put so much time into it, but open world leads to just generated stuff that you don't actually have to put work into.
It's one department versus another. So your writing team has to do less work, but your level design team has to do a fuck ton more. Because I have no doubt that level design teams get overworked as shit when it comes to open world games, but they are also very good at it. It's like, if you see Dragon Age Inquisition, the best fucking part of that game was the level designs. Honestly, the story
I was thinking
was
of the
garbage.
Division.
The Division
I was thinking
too.
maybe the Division.
Yeah,
because
we're
Division,
talking
they did
about
a one-to-one recreation in New York.
How difficult really is procedurally generated?
It is not procedurally generated in that case.
Stuff. It's not procedurally.
I think you're misunderstanding procedural generation.
Yeah.
Not like what I'm not procedural.
Are you talking about reusable assets,
but,
like trees and shit?
More like rehash.
King of that.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like quest design and like you just like rehash stuff constantly, and you have to put in less work for that. You don't have to you don't have to make interesting storylines. You don't have to make interesting encounters, because you just do the same thing.
Well, and I made I think I actually, in one of the blog posts I wrote recently about Andromeda, Mass Effect Andromeda, was this kind of one or the other. Like, one of the dichotomies of video games is, if you make a choice to go in one direction, it will inevitably draw resources away from other places. And one of the common places on this is open world versus story content. The nature of an open world, Elder Scrolls being an example, is the kind of the exploration aspect of it. The build your own adventure kind of thing, your own experiences. And Joe and I were having a discussion about this, with how he doesn't like the fact that Elder Scrolls kind of is like, they really don't have very good story writing, and that's not
Bethesda.
That's that.
He said that about Bethesda many times.
Yeah, Bethesda. Yeah, it was Bethesda as a whole, and he's not wrong. Like, their story writing has been weak for some time. Like, granted, it's gotten worse as time has gone on, but I wouldn't say that I played Morrowind so much because of the story. It was just the world just drew me in, and I was just having fun being a part of that world.
But and that's actually interesting too, because that's why people don't understand why I love Fallout 3 so much, and that's why it's the world.
Yeah, the world, and that was the same thing in Oblivion. Skyrim had the reason why I dislike Skyrim, and I've been very open about this, was because I feel like I was disconnected from that world, like I was no longer a part of it, because I had thus played through the story of Morrowind, all the DLC, Oblivion, all the DLC, and those were kind of one continuous flowing world. It was naturally evolving. Then all of a sudden, stop, 200 years in the future, everything you know is fucking gone. Everything is crumbling, everything's falling apart, and I'm just like, I don't really feel attached to this world at all. It feels disconnected. It feels bleak. It feels like it's those little those western towns that are just the facades. They're just the front of buildings but nothing behind them.
And now you understand why I don't like New Vegas that much.
Yeah, well, I mean, New Vegas wasn't as bad.
But that's exactly how I feel about New Vegas.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, is that Elder Scrolls in general was a kind of a story about adventuring, which is one of the reasons why a lot of people who criticize Elder Scrolls Online, I can point to them and say, hey, actually, I feel right at home in Elder Scrolls Online. It actually surprisingly fits in an MMO because of the fact of MMOs most of the time don't have the best story writing, but they do open world exploration pretty well.
Yeah.
Now, conversely, you have what was the other one I used the example? I think it was Dragon Age Inquisition. No, I think it was another series that I tried to use as more of a story focused. But Dragon Age Inquisition did try to focus a lot on the story and be open world, and I feel like they both suffered as a result. We ended up with Corey Fish, one of the worst fucking villains in history. And at what point they actually did good story writing is when they took the open world away from you, pretty much, and locked you to the end game story of what was that the last deal? Trespasser. When they locked you into that end game DLC for the Trespasser stuff, that's whenever the story writing actually shined, because they were no longer focused on open world. I feel like that's the same thing here. Ghost Recon Future Soldier, one of my favorite games of all time. Xaiphen and I played the living fuck out of that game.
Yeah, we did.
And that was a short game. It was like maybe 5 hours start to finish, if that. Like, it had like maybe, I don't know, I want to say like maybe 10 missions to that. It was a really short game. But we replayed them over and over again to like complete specific challenges. You had to do things in certain ways. You had to get from this point to this point within so many minutes, or kill this guy in this amount of time or on this difficulty. It was a challenge to do some of those, and you had to do them in a very specific way. That was fun for me. That's the Ghost Recon fun that I have, is making me try to think in a very specific strategic pattern, not be afraid to throw difficulty at me, and for fuck's sake, just being able to steal an APC and roll in with a Gatling gun and mow everybody down on the hardest difficulty. It was like, what game am I playing? This is not fucking Ghost Recon. Fortunately, Rainbow Six Siege is a Tom Clancy game through and through. Yes, it's primarily focused on PvP only, and that's a thing, but it is very much a Tom Clancy game. Super technical, super strategic. I really wish that Phantoms also would have enjoyed the success of Siege, but it is what it is.
It's PC exclusive. I don't think it would have.
I'm completely okay. Am I the only one that's completely okay with Rainbow Six Siege being PvP focused? Seeing as now, while I haven't played it, I've seen enough of it that it seems like they've brought the feel of Terrorist Hunt, which was one of my favorite things.
It's a Terrorist Hunt still in there.
It's Terrorist Hunt, but it's like PvP Terrorist Hunt, and they've managed to make the translation work.
No, I mean they have the PvE Terrorist Hunt still in
there. Yeah, I know. I think they did. I didn't know if I knew if they had that or not, but they've managed to translate that over to PvP successfully, which is...
One of the things I'm impressed with is the capability of the AI. You're running the Terrorist Hunt, and you run on like normal. In some mission types, normal can be a bit too easy because it's just too easy to set yourself up in a manner that the AI is not going to counter that. But there's a lot of situations the AI does not screw around. It runs alternating tactics. It will throw in audibles instead of just trying to rerun the same crap at you. Like, okay, you've got to like on a harder difficulty, usually run into this where you got an enemy peeks around a corner, pops a shot off at you, knows you're set up in a very focused sightline position where like you see somebody peek around a corner, you can pick them off, or at least you have since the AI peeked its head around that corner. Well, instead of doing that, it's going to go around, breach through a wall, and come at you from the side.
Yeah. Oh, and there's some of those.
Where and that's just the AI.
Yeah. And obviously your players get really competitive on there, although I would not recommend if you're in the United States to play on European servers because 200 millisecond
Oh, when we got lag raped?
Oh, God, that was so bad. Like, there was... Anyway, yeah, that was... we'll stick to Terrorist Hunt when we play with Ludwig and Kinjima because that was bad. But in any case, though, that's the good that came out of it is that pretty much most of us, I think, it was me, Xaiphen, Joe. Did Canada get Siege too? I can't remember, but
no, Canada didn't get in with us yet. I don't think he's on it.
Okay, but
he's been playing a lot of WoW.
Yeah,
I think he's hooked on that shit.
He's hooked on the Warcraft bandwagon. But on a side note too, obviously I've now played 2 betas of For Honor. And I really like the game. I really do. It's got a lot of great stuff to it. Kevin and I still haven't done a rematch yet because he's been hiding in Neo. But
actually, I played a little bit of it on my X1 last night, and the frame rate holds up.
Does it? Nice.
Yeah, it holds up.
And the thing is though is that like there was some issues I was having last night with I finally got to experience the problems with the peer-to-peer hosting when I was getting some little latency things here and there. Like I'd try to dodge and I'd be just mashing my dodge button and nothing would happen. And then I would get hit by an enemy and just get stun locked and hey, I'm fucked now. It's like, yeah, well, that sucks. But positive note, it's a great game. It just is being released at the wrong time for me. That's the truth.
Well, I'm looking at it too. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna keep up with all these games. Got Neo coming out. Well, Neo's out now. We have For Honor, Halo Wars, Mass Effect's coming out next month.
Yeah.
Horizon's coming. I'm glad they played South Park at this point because I was really looking forward to South Park, and I'm like, where do you find time to play all these games?
Well, it's pretty much that we're gonna be probably heavy into Rainbow Six Siege, trying to get good at that for a little while now, and then.
Well, do you really see us still playing it like that once Mass Effect comes out?
No, that's the thing is that I mean I might throw it in there occasionally, but I'm gonna be pretty heavily dedicated to Andromeda because I'm gonna be doing the multiplayer build guides.
Yeah,
that's one thing that like I want to mention on For Honor real quick though about my personal experience with it. I agree with Mort. I do think it's a well-made game, and the nice blend of a MOBA's hack and slash with the tactical or the dueling effect of a tactical fighter. It's well made. It's well put together, with the exception of glitches, which hopefully will be smoothed out from the beta. It's not my type of game. I've played other MOBAs, and I don't think I can get into any MOBA that well.
Yeah,
I think if you're playing the 4v4 mode with all the minions and shit.
Yeah,
what's the conquest mode, domination mode? I don't know what's called.
Dominion.
Yeah, Dominion. I actually think that's probably the worst mode in the game. I really like the duels.
You know what? I agree. I think, and that's the main mode, right? That's the primary mode people like is showcased. That is the most. I
really like the dueling.
Yeah, but the dueling is really what shines. And when you're playing that, like what I do whenever I go into those into the Dominion mode, I pick the Nobushi with the Najinata, and I just sit there and poke at enemies from a distance. And I never go into the dueling mode really ever. And it's like that because that's just I don't know. It's easier that way for me. But whenever I'm in like the dueling or brawls, now granted, one of my viewers, Waffles, joined in on me for the closed beta, and again we played together in the open beta. That guy's crazy good at the game, but essentially he and I would go in 2v2 brawls in that one. And that shit's fun as hell, especially whenever you realize, you identify that one of you is keenly paired against the other opponent, and you keep, like, there's some of the matches where literally you both start side by side. Some of the matches, the teams start very well split up. But some of them you start side by side, and I'll literally bum rush the guy that I know that I can beat and eliminate him quickly. Like, there was one guy who, for some reason, could not stop doing the high swing at me. I was holding the shield above my head, ready to block the high swing, and he kept doing it. And I'm like, I'm going to punish you every fucking time you do that. You should really learn to mix it up. The other guy...
Yeah, this isn't the old school Mortal Kombat fighter days where you can just keep running spamming the same move over and over again.
Yeah.
Actual.
And that's the fun of it was that the other guy, on the other hand, was really mixing it up, and he was hard for me to play against. I was doing my best, but damn, and that was a good fight overall, because that other guy was crazy good, and he was actually beating Waffles on occasion. Like, on that particular match, normally Waffles carries my ass. I have no delusions about that. Like, I'll die in like seconds, and then he takes the two people on by himself. And I'm like,
that's the name of your last stream.
Yeah. But you know, and it's that last brawl match we got before you got done with the tutorial, Xaiphen, it was literally neck and neck. We took it to round 5, you know, and I literally, from the beginning, I would pick off the guy, the weaker of the two, and go after him because I knew I could beat him. The other guy was crazy good and would half the time kill Waffles. And I managed to, only one of the rounds, managed to beat him because Waffles and him were like neck and neck and fighting it down to the wire, and I stood by and let them finish their fight because, by the way, it's a dick move to go in and fucking gank somebody whenever they're in a duel. This is just the informal code that is formed.
All's fair in love and war and coffee.
I know, but this is the informal code.
It's one of the unwritten rules.
Yeah, is that you stand by, you wait for the other guy to finish their fight, and then you immediately fuck him. As soon as if the opponent wins, you gank the fuck out of him, which is exactly what I did. He had a little bit of health left, and he was in the middle of executing Waffles, and I ran up, shield bashed his ass, and just beat the fuck out of him. And I was like, I won. Cheap as fuck, but I won.
And then you use the little emotes.
Yeah.
One, sorry.
Yeah, it's
don't ever use good fight unless you win.
Yeah, and then you get the guys who are like raw, 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 raw. They're or the one Conqueror, and I give him props for being creative. He spammed the emote where the guy pounds a shield on the ground. He kept spamming that, and it was like he was teabagging.
Glorious.
I was like, that's creative, man. I give him props for that. Anyway, so yeah, so like I said, For Honor's great game. Unfortunately, bad timing be on its release because of the fact that I'm going to be on Rainbow Six and my other games pretty solidly until my PC part's coming in, and then early March is going to be all about, I'm going to be live streaming building my PC, and then it's going to run right into Mass Effect Andromeda, and there's not going to be much time for
So your plan is kind of to build it with the anticipation of Mass Effect kind of deal?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
I considered it because I'd love to see Mass Effect at higher fidelity. I'm on the fence about if I'm still getting it on Xbox or PC. I'd love to play it on PC, but I think, but like I said, with those hard level promotion caps, if you can't keep up, if I start playing another game or some other games to take a break, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to come back.
To be fair, and this is the truth of it. So keep this in mind: is there are going to be those permanent stat promotion bullshit, which, by the way, BioWare is a fucking mistake. Mark my words, it's a mistake.
Agreed.
But aside from that, what I've noticed after, it's now been a couple years since Dragon Age Inquisition is out, most of the promotion lords have gotten bored and left. Because it's it's no longer a challenge for them. At some point you get 1,000 promotions in that game. Even Heartbreaker, the hardest difficulty you can get to, is boring. So, and the thing is, so they just get bored and quit, but they're essentially slowing down the progression in Andromeda, so that might be longer. But here's the thing, is what will happen, those promotion lords will be playing on the hardest difficulties. So if you're playing on, say, silver, maybe even gold at some point, then you're going to be chances are playing with just normal people. You'll occasionally get the guy that wants to feel like God mode, who's got crazy promotion level, and he comes in there and just wipes everything in one hit or whatever. Yeah, you might. And I don't know. To be fair, I don't know what the actual stat bonuses will be. If they upgrade damage, I hope to fucking Christ they don't, because that shit will be broken. And if they upgrade defense is crazy. I don't know what they're gonna upgrade. Like as their promotions. That's the concerns I have, because upgrading flat damage and upgrading like maybe upgrading headshot damage I think would be fair, because that still encourages tactical play. But still, I don't know. Anyway, point is that it's gonna be the same on Xbox and Xbox, PS4, PC. We had them all. And if I remember, one of the people that had some of the highest promotions from Dragon Age Inquisition was on Xbox One. So take that for what it is.
What I'm seeing is and this is what we talked about before too, a couple weeks ago. I tend to find with more AAA games, the PC community like hops on it really fast. They also get off of it more quickly. So for that longevity, I usually find that the console players stick around a little bit longer. I also tend to find that they're not as hard. Mass Effect 3 is an exception to the rule. I'm saying for a lot of games. I also tend to find that on consoles, and maybe it's because they have less games, I'm not sure. So the communities don't tend to stick around as long. Mm-hmm. And they don't tend to have as many tryhards. So you don't have people that are like, I'm like you said, the promotion horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some of those on consoles. I don't see as many people on consoles with that mindset, like where it seems like everybody on PC that I bump into is MLG.
Yeah, Inquisition had a lot, so I don't know if that's because the thing is obviously Dragon Age, although sometimes overlaps with Mass Effect with their fan base, it does tend to be kind of its own little sphere. So,
they're very different. Well, it's like the Gears and Halo communities. There's some overlap, but they're very, very different communities.
Well, the thing is, though, is I do say that obviously BioWare does have there is a lot of overlap there. I know a lot of people that are Dragon Age and Mass Effect fans, so
for the most part we are.
Yeah, exactly. So, and in that regard, you could see some of the same mentality carrying over, and there's still I have some hesitation. I'm getting on PC because I want to see it in all its glory. I want it at the maximum.
Maybe because you don't have a console.
With the money I'm dropping on this PC, I could have a fuking console if I wanted.
No, I'm saying because you don't have a console.
Yeah, I could have a console.
Yeah, you could. I'm not saying you can't.
Let's be honest. I could buy 2 consoles with the cost of my graphics card.
3 actually.
Just
long-term investment.
If they're $300 off sale, that's gonna be about the cost of that GTX 1080. So,
I paid $250 for both my slim models.
Okay, so that's still.
And then I got in my Xbox and my PS4 actually got me a $50 gift card from Best Buy.
Yeah, the GTX 1080 is like $650. So, and I'm hoping, although it may not happen, I'm hoping.
They dropped the $5,000.
Yeah, well, no, it's the price stabilized. The MSRP on it was always like $600 or $650, but when it first came out, there was such a crazy demand for it. The prices jacked up over $700 very quickly. But now the prices have stabilized on it a bit, which is why I'm looking at that and not looking at the potential of getting the GTX 1080 Ti or whatever higher end model they come out with. Because as Xaiphen pulled out, it may be like an MSRP of $800 or $900, and then it'll be like $1,000, $1,100, $1,200 for like the first few months that it's out because of the demand.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's I don't have the budget for that craziness, and I perfectly fine with a 1080. It's gonna be a whole universe difference from what I'm at now. Like I'm going from driving a fucking bicycle to driving the Ferrari. There's going to be no comparison. I'm going from the i3 4330 and the 650 Ti boost to the 7700K and fucking the GTX 1080 and all the bells and whistles. Yeah, it is going to be a universe of difference. But
It's gonna be like dating Betty White to dating Scarlett Johansson.
Right.
That's the kind of jump we talking about.
I don't know, man. You say
Betty White though.
You say that
She's
like
in her
Betty
90s.
White's. Hey, you know what? And I guarantee you,
Betty White in her youth though, she was bad in her youth. She was bad.
But
I was a 90-year-old Betty White.
Sean's like, I don't know about this conversation.
What would this podcast be without Kev?
I know, right? it would be something. Anyway, so now that we're a nice good
for everyone.
Now that we're a nice good hour into the podcast, let's go ahead and actually get on to the topic.
The main event.
Just because I wanted to make sure that we didn't run into that dead space of like, well, we talked about what we're talking about. Now we're just sitting here awkwardly.
That wasn't a bad game.
So the gray market. So I'm going to start off by phrasing this. Kev is an open proponent of the gray market. I'm just kidding. He's been like, you're trying to frame this as a debate. No, it's not. It's not a debate. But the first question I'll ask to you guys is, where do you guys usually buy your games on PC? And we'll start with Travis on that one. If you were to buy a game right now, not that you usually buy games very frequently nowadays, but
I mean, I have too many, but
forever.
Yeah.
Lies.
I mean, it would be on Steam, personally. Like 99% chance it would be Steam, maybe a Humble Bundle.
Okay. And Xaiphen?
I'm going to take Travis's Steam or Death Shroud's Steam and raise it with more Steam. And let me explain this. If I see games for the same price available in other legitimate markets like say Uplay Games or on GOG or whatever, if it's also available on Steam, I usually end up getting it on Steam instead, just because I'm a very heavy user of the Steam controller. It's not impossible to set up a profile for the Steam controller on a non-Steam game, but it's a lot easier if it's in my Steam library natively. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Steam, pretty much Steam. I'll use all the others as necessary, but they're all mainline like Origin, Uplay, Steam, GOG. And there's two others that I'm forgetting. Oh, Blizzard and Epic. Although I don't think I have any Epic games currently.
I have Unreal Tournament crowdsource thing on Epic right now.
Oh yeah, I was tempted to get that. I just never got around to it.
Because I'm a big fan of old school Unreal Tournament. Anyway, Kev, where do you buy games?
Depends. Sometimes it depends on price. A lot of it depends on price. And also because I'm multi-platform, if I see the same game and it's just cheaper on console, like a decent amount cheaper, I might just get it on console.
Well, I know that you buy a lot from Best Buy, right? Because they have a pretty good.
Yeah, I'm part of the Best Buy Gamers Unlocked deal.
Yeah.
So I use that quite a bit because I like getting the point. I like getting the cash back. Mm-hmm. When you get enough points, and I buy most of my electronics at Best Buy anyway, so it adds up. So I like that. I like that I get the $20 off of new games. If in the brand new out of the box games. I'm not even sure what you're laughing at.
Confirmed pony. That's the chat's consensus on your response. Confirmed pony.
This is when I tell them that I buy most of those games on Xbox, isn't
it? Yep, confirmed pony. But yeah, no, I get you. So, have any of you?
I'll buy it on, and if we're talking like just on like digital distribution, if it's if it's say cheaper or if it's like the same price Steam and Uplay, I'm getting it on Steam.
Mm-hmm. So, and just to make sure I join myself in the conversation on here, I actually always try to buy from GOG. Anytime I have the chance, I try to buy from GOG. Because they're, in my opinion, from what I've seen and their actions in the past, they're the only guys that are actually pro-consumer. And if you get it on GOG, they oftentimes will give you a Steam key for it. I try not to give Steam any fucking money because, in my opinion, they're a bunch of sniveling little rats that are trying to, underhandedly undermine the industry, and everybody gives them a blind pass for everything they do, and that kind of bugs me. But but in any case, yeah, and I know a lot of people buy on Steam. There's nothing wrong with that. I have a different view just because I'm cynical as fuck, and I think that's kind of a well-established position of mine on everything. But
well, there's nothing wrong with necessarily that.
Yeah.
The reason I buy mostly on Steam is because I like the Steam platform, not because I like Steam themselves. I don't like the way GOG is set up.
Well, like I said, I bought Witcher 3, season pass, all that on GOG. They give me a Steam key for it. GOG is owned by CD Projekt Red, right? That it's their game. Like Witcher 3 is their game, and they gave me a Steam key for it. So,
I think they're appreciative of people buying it because they understand too. Like, you're not going to stop piracy. They mentioned this years ago. Mm-hmm. We're not going to stop piracy. We're not even going to bother fighting it, but we're going to give everything we can to our paying customers.
And here's the funny thing is that them having absolutely no DRM on GOG, no DRM whatsoever, they report the same levels of piracy experienced by all the other platforms that do have DRM.
Yeah, so that makes so much of a difference.
Yeah, like so DRM actually does zip, and that's the fun to you play who loves your crazy, and in EA who love their crazy DRM. Yeah, it doesn't work at all.
I actually like Origin, sadly.
Yeah, well, I mean, Origin here's the thing. I put this in perspective for people that are like Steam fanboys, and I'm like, listen. I think it was 2013 or something like that. Origin implemented their new revamp. They had a return policy before, but they revamped the return policy to be a 7-day return policy. You can play it for up to 24 hours total game time, and then you can return it within that 7 days. That was their revamped return policy circa 2013. 2015 or 2015, I think. Finally, after a lot of people are pushing Valve finally institutes any sort of return policy. They had nothing beforehand. Origin still had one before that. It just was something a little bit weaker. I think it was like that you could play the game for a few hours or something, or if you didn't play the game, who knows. Point is that Steam's return policy is it's like up to a week or something like that, but you can only play the game for 2 hours. 2 hours total. That's
right. It. And now that when we bring up return policies, GOG has the best return one. 30 days, no questions asked.
Yeah, 30 days, and then again going towards GOG. But Origin still has the second best on there. Steam is like a 4th or 5th place. You play, right? And people fucking play has a better return policy.
You play as a return policy, yeah. But that's the funny part about it, because everybody praises Steam's return policy. Steam's return policy isn't amazing.
It is actually really bad. It's the worst.
It's really bare bones.
Yep, and that's kind of my my.
Well, it's still better than G2A.
Well,
do you think it's just
it's still better than PSN? PSN, you ain't getting shit back.
Yeah,
like, you can get your credit card stolen with PSN games, and they're like, well, our policy says no returns. Fuck you.
Do you think it's just a? Do you think it just comes from Steam's popularity combined with people's ignorance of other platforms?
Yeah,
that they praise.
I think a lot of it is careful marketing. Steam markets themselves very well. There's a lot of fans of Valve. That are fans of Valve from like Half-Life and all that stuff that are fanboys, to be frankly honest. And
Valve has their fanboys. Blizzard does too.
Valve has very careful marketing though. They don't try and push it too hard. In some cases where they could actually help themselves out if they tried to push their marketing a lot heavier, but they don't. They choose to be more conservative on it, but it still works out well for them decently.
Yeah. So my thing is on here is that I guess the benefit, the benefits of a PC gamer is having that variety though. Like we can have all these, you play GOG, Origin, whatever. We have all this variety to buy games. And as I started off, I said early in the stream, and this was kind of a lead into this, is that we actually have that option because, and that's a good thing. That's not actually bad, like you would hear the console fanboys try to say, because when these companies compete, we win overall. And the regular gaming market, which is what most people see, is these authorized vendors, like Steam, Origin, Uplay, GOG, etc. These are where publishers provide like the product directly to the vendors and they sell it to you. The vendor takes their cut off of the sale. What is less seen, however, are the other two markets, the gray and the black markets, which it's pretty well known that the black market is just where stuff is sold illegally. That's piracy, right? That's ARG. That's where Kev shops for all his games. Oh, no, sorry, that's where Joe shops for all of his games. Yeah, that's right.
Well, no, that's where he demos his games and then he buys them on Steam.
I know. I'm
or Amazon.
I'm being funny, but yeah. Now, the question is, though, before I continue on here, is have any of you guys actually purchased the game from a gray market site such as G2A or Kingwin? I know Kev has, but have either Travis or Xaiphen, have you guys bought anything from there?
No, never really had any interest.
We lost Xaiphen's camera.
What? Oh, shit.
Well, Travis's camera's gone.
Yeah, I took it off.
Yeah, it's Xaiphen. I meant Travis.
I started not feeling too great, so.
Yeah,
you're just confusing me now. I'm going to say, here's now the gray market, black market thing. On PC, it has been nothing but the standard markets. I'm going to go with that. I've not actually dealt with any gray or black markets on PC at all. In the past, however, but in 2005, I deployed to Iraq. I had an Xbox over there. I got it modified with a bigger hard drive so I could store games. And of course, there's a lot of black market in Iraq. Is the domestic market. You wanted DVDs, you'd see four movies on a DVD, $5 for that DVD. Yeah. We got Star Wars Episode 3 days before it came out in theaters, that sort of thing. That's like I said, the black market is their domestic market. It's not uncommon for third world countries. But yeah, they had somebody who could modify Xboxes over there. This was before I got technically involved enough to do something like that myself, or else I would have, and lack of access to tools and such needed for it. But yeah, I got a modified big hard drive on there, and I could save games to it. That's pretty much the most I've done with black market, gray market dealings. Is like, say, and this would be effective gray market, I guess, in a personal level. Friend owned a game or bought a game, or I bought a game or whatever. Say we both had modded Xboxes, borrow the copy of the game, save it on the hard drive, return it. Mm-hmm. So that's a gray market effect. Perma sharing. Where you duplicate it. It's in a way it's also black market. It's gray area though, because it's not a matter of I'm trying to do a legal sale or anything else like that is absolutely not legal. It's the effect of borrowing a game from a friend, but just not having to need to keep playing it. But yeah, that's the most I've dealt with that.
What about the biggest GameStop? I was
going to bring that up.
Yeah. All right, Kev, go ahead.
You're fine. You're fine. That's actually kind of my argument when people argue against gray keys is how is it much different than GameStop? And I'm not saying that. And the only difference is GameStop sold the developer bought a copy, but then when it got traded to GameStop, they sold it 7 times.
Here's the thing: is if you look at Mort's latest notes on that, what you're looking at in the gray market is not something that has been acquired secondhand like that, especially in a physical copy where somebody relinquishes their access to that game when it gets resold as used. The gray market issue that you run into is something that is priced for a third world economy so that they can actually afford it and get into the gaming world. But it's actually being sold to first world people who can afford full price games, or figuratively afford full price games.
So full disclosure on there, Moobot's apparently going a little bit Nazi on there. Sorry about that, Super Zombie. I actually did see what you said, and I'll respond to it in a minute. Continue on those, Xaiphen.
Yeah. Or then, as you mentioned before, when we were having our little chats before our podcast, is people who get free copies of the game for purposes of the review, and they're like, "Well, I've done my review. I don't need the game anymore, but I still have access to it, so I'm going to sell it off to somebody."
Well,
Here,
or usually you get those codes that are still tied to your account.
No. The thing is, that's not how the review copies get resold, because once they're activated, you can't do anything.
True.
But in any case, so real quick on there. So here's the difference on your GameStop. Like you said, physical items, and this is why eBay is a gray market site, and technically so is GameStop. It's half gray market, half not, because it actually does sell full priced new games, and then they also have their used
but then
games.
you have like I don't know if you guys heard about the Circle of Life stuff that's going around lately. They're like discouraged in selling anything new. Like they act like the employees at GameStop get in trouble for selling new shit.
Well, that's because there's less profit margin for them, and that's fair. But here's the thing: is that so this is where I'm going with that is in your secondhand sales market like eBay or like GameStop, there's a physical item that has been bought by someone else and then is being resold. The value
and
has
that
been
is
reduced.
relinquished from the original buyer. That's the biggest part right there. The original item is being relinquished from the original buyer.
Yes. Now you could the technology is available to have a used game market in the digital space. If, say, Steam, you have a game on Steam and I put it up for sale and they revoke access of that key from my account and then activate it on the buyer. That is actually possible. With licensing, that is possible. However, they don't do that.
Steam does that. Steam does that already when you get refunds. If you leave the game installed on your machine, it will prompt you to purchase it.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about actually transferring the key ownership to another player. But yes, it would force uninstall it. So we know that the capability is there to revoke your access to the game and give it to somebody else. But they don't do that, probably because I'm imagining there's some political reasoning behind it, like maybe we'll say...
It's probably just messy.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, it's not even messy because you get software would do all the work.
Yeah, no, like my thing is that I suspect that it's largely political, like maybe GameStop is throwing their weight around trying to... Because they would get fucked if there was a secondhand market on there, because it would be handled by the distribution platform. Your Origin, your Steam, your Uplay, whatever would be handling the transaction, and GameStop would be cut out as the middleman. And so
I'm okay with that. I'd be okay with GameStop just going away.
Yeah, me too. But in any case, to respond to what what's his name, Super Zombie 98. Before his messages got purged, just so I can, I was going to address this later on, but since Moobot decided that it was going to be a Nazi and purge all of his messages, to respond to your thing on there is free games, like the games that are offered for free on Steam, is not necessarily an argument to the value of Steam as a platform, because those games could be offered anywhere. That's you look at the functionality of the platform, how it works as a platform, how easy is it to download, how fast is it to download, how easy is it to launch games, is there any intrusive DRM nonsense that is inherent to Steam? Mm-hmm. There's not, by the way. The publishers handle the DRM for Steam. And then you look at other functions like big picture mode, the chat functions, voice chat, parties, that sort of thing. You take that into account for the actual platform. You don't take in the actual games and what the price is. Now, if they are offering...
Well, beyond that, too, equating free games to Steam is like equating the quote-unquote free games you get on PSN and Xbox Live.
Yeah.
Well, on top of that, being a distribution platform, what they have access to, or their level of popularity, allows them a larger library to have available than some other distribution platforms, especially ones that more focus only on the stuff that they publish, like say Origin.
Yeah, Origin does have other games, to be fair, but it's much less than their percentage of non-EA games is very small. But if you look at it this way, the way that I compare it on Steam, equivalency is if I'm looking at a game, I'll try to look for a game that's available on whatever platform, and I compare the prices of that across all the platforms. Oftentimes, they will all try to throw sales down at the same time, so that way they're not missing out. Like, for example, Rainbow Six Siege was on sale on Uplay at the same time it was on sale on Steam. Because if Uplay didn't
it was on sale everywhere.
Yeah.
It was on sale on PlayStation and Xbox too.
Yeah.
And at Best Buy.
I think that game sharing, Super Zombie, which Kev actually has more experience with, the family view or whatever. It can I think Kev, you told me you can only use one at a time. Like if that
only
game is running on any
the game can access one game in the library for one person at a time. Period. Yeah. For that, it's set up for a family who shares a computer.
Yeah.
And I don't like it for that. If we're talking about sharing games, actually, I think the consoles do it much better.
Yeah.
Particularly Xbox One, it's very much so set up for that. If you have multiple Xboxes,
yeah,
you like me and my son can play Destiny together, and it's not a problem. And we do sometimes. No issues.
Yeah.
And I would set up on 2 different Xboxes.
But the key on there, though, going back to the gray market thing on there, is that the legality of it that sometimes you'll hear people bring up. So the difference between the black and the gray market, of course, is the black market is selling things illegally. That's piracy. That's where people are stealing in some manner or another. They're stealing the game, reselling it, and it's actual theft. It's piracy. Yeah. It's illegal. If at
that point, just pirate the damn game.
Yeah, and that's the black market. The gray market is where things get, gray. Gray market's a venue where unauthorized vendors sell goods, but do so in a legal fashion.
Right. It's the middle ground. It's where it's the indifference, which is why I say I'm indifferent on it. Like I'm not against the gray market.
Yeah.
But I understand where a lot of people are coming from. I am against when people, they steal the keys or they use stolen credit cards.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if it's like, oh, well, I bought a GTX 1080, we'll say, and they were coming with Gears 4, but I already paid for Gears 4, so I'm selling my Gears key.
Yeah.
I see nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's fair, and there's good ways and bad ways that the keys get distributed on gray markets, and that's why it's gray. If it was all good things, like you said, where people are just giving away their free keys for that, then it would probably not be seen as being hinky. But obviously, the biggest example of a gray market that most people are familiar with is not necessarily in gaming. That's eBay, right? And obviously, eBay, for the most part, you do not see stolen goods sold on eBay, which is a lot of times people try to bring up the argument of G2A, Kingwin are selling stolen keys. I imagine that there have been, and there's been scandals of stolen keys being sold before on Kingwin. I think it was Kingwin. It might have been G2A. One of the two. But it's not really a common thing. It's just like on eBay. Stolen shit's been tried to launder through eBay before, and it does happen on occasion. But for the most part, what you're buying on eBay is pretty much legit. The question there is, if it's not illegal and there's no legal repercussions, even if it was a stolen game, you legally would not be culpable for anything on there, because you didn't know that it was stolen, as the consumer. So if there's no legal repercussions, then is there any harm from buying games from the gray market? That's my question for you guys there.
Legal repercussions, no. Financial repercussions, yes. And here's my example on this. You buy a game, like say you pay $20 for a $60 game from a gray market. Now, the biggest problem with gray markets is their greed. They rush through things. They do not validate the keys they have going through. There's something that can be legitimately sold. Whether it's stolen or not, they don't do these checks that would be necessary to. And I think they have a way of legally getting around it's not our responsibility sort of thing. Even though some of them claim that they do.
Approach.
Even though even though they claim that they do validation checks, they don't. Yeah. And that's the biggest problem behind it. So you run into an issue. You buy a key, and it works, but it gets there's a batch of keys that are actually bad or stolen or something like that. And it gets caught on by the publisher, and they deactivate all of those keys.
Happened with
Well, the gray
4.
market, the thing of the gray market sales distributor, they wash their hands in both directions. Like, oh, well, they tell the publisher we didn't know those keys were bad. They tell the buyer, like, well, there's no refunds.
Oh no, the
Sorry,
thing is that when that happened
we can't
with
guarantee you.
that was Assassin's Creed, wasn't it? That had
No, it was Far Cry 4.
Oh, Far Cry 4. Yeah, there's a big group of, and they refunded.
And there was a big enough stink that they refunded it, but that's not always the case.
But that was that was because it
and
was
G2A
really
charges
public.
you for that shit.
Yeah,
like, they want you to pay like an extra $5 on your purchase. I think. Oh no, it's $1. It's $1 on there, and if you pay that, then they say, oh yeah, if it comes back, then we'll give you your game back. Like, but if I'm buying the game, I should have to buy protection.
They do that to try and ensure some kind of profit on it, no matter what, whether it's goes bad or not.
That's Connecticut insurance salesmen, right? Any of you guys live in New England know what the fuck I'm talking about. The Connecticut insurance salesmen are essentially they're mobsters, they're gangsters, right? Hey, we go sell you protection. If you don't buy protection, something bad might happen to you.
What's this protection from? Us?
Yeah, exactly. You're buying protection from them. Like it's a loop street, and that's essentially what G2A does. Is they sell you protection in case the key is hinky because they didn't check it. So you're paying protection from them. And that's a scam to me, but whatever. In any case, though, there's the harm in them not checking the key and it being stolen. But I mean, if the key's legit, right? There's you take stolen keys out of the equation, take that whole Far Cry 4 stink out of it, and say none of the keys are stolen. Legality's out of it. Is there still a harm in buying games from the gray market?
I can see it being harmful towards the industry, but that goes back to the GameStop example that I guess I was touching on and Travis was, where it comes back more to how is this different from used games, with the exception of the one copy sold, because they're still selling it over and over again afterward.
Yeah. Well, let's say the entirety of the market, and it's looking at all digital environment. Because that's where our argument is rooted out of on this particular gray market approach. Is it's all digital. Let's look at the entirety of the keys are from extra. Somebody already bought the game and they got it included with another purchase. All right, so they resell the key to get something off of it, or the keys are come from effective used digital resale, which is weird. It's something that is feasible, possible to set up, but nobody really works with that on that. But at any rate, so you got a used sale effect, or you've got a excessive item, or excessive inventory sale. Yeah. Both of those are legitimate ways to go through that, but there's got to be some kind of checks and balances involved in that, some kind of oversight to make sure it is actually going through those legitimate routes. Looking at something that is still technically a legal sale, but is more or less like, so this actually goes into other industries on why you see ridiculously high prices in certain industries is because of what if I get the rich buyer? And we've got to, even some of the poorest people, if you're in a point where you can afford to buy anything at all, you can afford a lot of stuff in a first world country like the U.S. as opposed to third world countries where there's a lot of staples that we have here that we consider mandatory that they don't even have in a lot of those countries. Yep. Well, they
running water.
They reorient pricing for those markets to get more players into it, and of course make some more money for the company.
We're going to get into that. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. You're starting to get into my later points on here of why the keys are cheaper. I know you read the notes. Thank you for reading the notes.
Well, unfortunately, I did not leave them up in front of me as I'm discussing this. We look at legal means. They say the keys come from legal access. The biggest point is, how do you know?
Yeah.
And let's go on that point. How do you know if nobody's checking it?
Yeah. I agree. But then what about a site, say, like I shop a lot from Green and Gaming?
I think
they're a legitimate storefront.
I think they're an authorized retailer. I don't think they're gray market. I'm pretty certain.
Right, but then they had a deal a couple years ago with The Witcher 3, where they said the keys from here aren't legit.
Okay, so maybe they are. I don't know. I know that, like,
Yeah,
for example, Humble's a authorized seller.
I
So
know Humble is. I
yeah,
know Gamersgate is.
yeah,
Amazon, of course.
yep.
But I buy quite a few games
Well,
from
the thing
Green
is
Man because they're usually 20 to 50% off.
technically Amazon could be a gray market site, although for digital game keys they're not. But for other, most people don't
Right,
realize
because
this.
you have the
Amazon's a
Amazon market.
marketplace. Anybody can sell stuff on Amazon. So don't always know the authenticity of what you're getting. But with digital keys, I'm pretty certain they get those from authorized vendors only. So. But yeah, the next question, which Xaiphen was kind of touching into, is where gray market keys come from, and that's the point he was kind of getting on there. Is the whole developing market thing, and kind of my question on there to you guys that as I'm kind of working off the fly on this one is if there was do you guys think that there is any problem with buying digital keys, digital games, from like a third world country and reselling them at a discount in the first world? Do you guys think there's any problem with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Why?
Here's the biggest reason why is eventually it's going to push publishers to the point of where they're like, well, screw you, it's full price for everyone all the time. They're not going to do like, second and third year discounts. They're not going to do third world discounts. They're not going to run any of those lower pricings because you're going to run into what is known, what currently is hospital syndrome. Mm-hmm. Well, hospitals charge outrageous prices based on like, well, yeah, they can't verify whether somebody's rich or poor coming in through there. And even if they could, it still starts looking bad on them. Because you look at hospitals, they don't, they're dealing with just people in their local area or somewhat local area. So they just charge a ridiculous amount of price and then leave it up to the patient to fight for a price that they can actually afford. And I don't like patient, not insurance company, but actual patient. The insurance company will say this is what it's worth, and that's all they're going to pay. The rest of it still gets put on the patient. And you can run into the same situation. It can end up turning into that same situation in a gaming sales market, where if people start gaming the system too much, no pun intended, if they start gaming the system too much and publishers do genuinely lose enough money on that, they may crack down and say, you know what, it's just, we're not going to give any special pricing to anyone.
I don't
exactly.
Well, here's the thing: is I'm actually going to correct you on that. They're not going to crack down on things. They're not going to see it as someone game. They're not going to be able to tell that someone's gaming the system per se. What's going to happen is supply and demand. So if you have,
I'm back in a second. Someone's at my door.
Yeah. If you have a group of like a market that you're selling to, right, and not many people can afford the keys from that market, so you sell them at a lower price to try to encourage sales from that place, and then all of a sudden the sales explode in that area. People start buying it because the prices are super cheap and they like the product. Well, what do? You then up the price a little bit, maybe a little bit at a time, or maybe you jack it up all at once, depending on what your strategy is on there. But you up the price because, and it's in physical merchandise, you do that to stem the demand a little bit so you can keep up supply. But in the digital verse, you don't really have to worry about that. You do it just simply for profits. If it's selling like hotcakes, you jack up that price a little bit so that way you can just make that extra profit. So naturally, what would happen if the gray market exploded enough in developing markets, then you would have just a general implode. Like the publisher would see, hey man, these are selling like crazy. We need to up the prices on here so we can make more money off of it. But the Steam is not actually a gray market at all. The community market, you can't you can't
trade outside games. They have to be Steam games.
The thing is, the gray market is also known as the parallel market. What a parallel market means is that it is aside from an authorized channel. Steam is an authorized channel. The community market, you're not actually buying games directly. If you buy a game bundle, that's a bundle that is actually offered in agreement between Steam and the publisher of that game. community items, like for example skins or whatever, like Warframe with the Tenogen market, or CS:GO with your knives and whatever skins, that sort of thing, those get sold in a community market, but the IP is still retained by the publisher of that game. With CS:GO, Valve owns that game, so they can do whatever the fuck they want with it. So they take that community market, they take a chunk of the money off of it as the publisher of the game, whatever. So it's not actually a gray market at all. It is 100% authentic, full market, just like the rest of all the big names out there. Aside from that, now going back to the discussion we were having before, the developing markets. That is the reason why the price would go up, though, is just because they're seeing that the demand is going up higher, so they can charge more price for it. The next part of it that we'll touch on briefly, and we'll start to get things wrapped up a little bit here, is that the other part of the gray market is those kind of free codes that go out for various other things. Now, in some cases, that's a tag-along deal. Like, for example, you buy a Humble Bundle, and all you want that Humble Bundle for is for Rainbow Six Siege, we'll say. You know, you buy the Rainbow Six, Humble Bundle.
And it gives you 8 other games, and you sell the 8 other games.
Yeah, you sell the 8 other games on there because you already have them or you don't want them, whatever. Point is that you now have all those keys, you sell those off. That I think is fair. You're paying legit, and like you said, also you buy GTX 1080, you get a free game, etc. That I can completely think that that's a fair way to utilize the gray market. But if you are a person, and oftentimes these are also in third world countries, but this is not just third world countries. You more or less pretend to be a games publication of some kind, be it online, physical magazines, whatever. You more or less pretend to be press in order to get review copies from publishers, and then you turn around and sell those review keys for a profit. You say, and oftentimes they'll ask for them in bulk because they'll claim that they have a staff of writers. So they'll say, hey, can we get 5 review keys? Not everybody's like the YouTube channels where you have one person gets 1 review key from the publisher in order to review the game. No, a lot of your magazines, your big time review magazines, IGN or whatever, might have.
They either get like 10 keys.
Yeah, they might get 5 or 10 keys in order for multiple people to play it, so that way they can try to get shit done quicker. Especially if you're reviewing Bethesda, because they only give you 24 fucking hours. Fuck you, Bethesda. Anyway, the point is though is that
I'll feel the love.
Yeah.
Where is the love?
The thing is that with that, obviously that has a similar consequence of, don't think the publisher doesn't know that those keys didn't go to a review. They will continue to give them out because you have authentic credentials of some sort. Usually, like I said, that happens in third world because it's easier to forge authentic credentials in third world countries. But that shit still happens a lot, and the publisher notes it, and then that becomes fuel for shit like Bethesda. We want everybody to experience the game at the same time. Do you guys think that that's actually another potential problem with the gray market? Do you think that publishers might start restricting reviews more and use the gray market as justification?
Like how significant of an impact could that make? However, right?
I'm not sure that the gray market is significant enough yet.
Yeah, well, not the gray market in general, but this specific avenue of obtaining keys seems like it would be a statistically insignificant number.
Yeah, I would say yes.
That's safe space right now.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is it may be a leverage point anyway, due to how certain publishers just don't like reviewers, and they get ridiculously and irrationally aggressive on dealing with reviewers. Bethesda. In the case of what was that? Bethesda particularly.
Yeah.
So I can see them using, even if it's not a problem. Yeah. Even if it's not a problem, I can see them using it as an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
No, I can see this being like mentioned in a boardroom somewhere where somebody like lists off some inflated figure of like publisher review copies being sold through the gray market, and they're like, "This is a problem, guys. We can't have any more reviews." Wink, wink.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like,
this is no different than when Ubisoft said, "Oh yeah, 90% of our games
are
on PC are pirated."
Well,
and then what happened? They did their next sales numbers. Oh, more PC players bought our games than Xbox players.
Just a minor correction on that. So the numbers that they were quoting for that 90% things, they actually did quote that from what seemed to be a legitimate study. You had to dig into like 3 layers of bullshit in order to find out that it was the piracy numbers they quoted were kind of misrepresented. So it was kind of...
It's 90% of our games from this one person who doesn't like to pay for anything.
Yeah, like it was the way that they twisted it a little bit was like it was bullshit. But yeah,
right. Because the thing is, I don't believe pirates or people that do legal activities are the majority. People, it tends to be the more hardcore, the heavy consumers. Like, I'm going to use movies as an example. If you're a guy, like, say, for me, for example, I'm not a big movie buff. I occasionally will watch a movie, but I might watch like 2 or 3 movies a year.
Mm-hmm.
It does, like, me as someone, I don't know where to find movies.
Are you talking about theaters, or are you talking
I'm talking period.
Okay.
Movies, period. So I'm not the guy who's going to necessarily know, oh, yeah, well, these were the places where you can get all of, this movie or for like cheap, or maybe I can find it like, it's not in stock anywhere, but you go to this special spot, you can get it. I don't know those places.
Yep.
So I know I can go get it on iTunes. I know I can get it on Amazon. I know I can maybe get it at Best Buy. And I think that's, and most people, because most gamers are casual, most gamers are like that too.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't know about G2A. Like when I buy my gray market keys, I tend to go to cdkeys.com.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know about those. Hell, when Morty brought all those up, he brought up the 2 big ones, Kingwin and G2A. Never mentioned CD keys. And I think that's how most people operate. Oh, I know I game on PC. Oh, I know Steam. They might know Origin and Uplay. They might know God.
I actually didn't bring up CD keys because G2A and Kingwin do primarily all of their business with games, whereas CD keys is actually not in games. They do a lot of software.
Do they?
Yeah, actually, I think one of their biggest sellers is actually Windows operating system, of various flavors and colors.
I never noticed when I go on Kingwin.com, I see PC, Xbox Live, Nintendo, top-ups, deals. All I see is game stuff.
Okay, yeah, Kingwin deals with a lot of outside software. That's one of the most popular buying places for a lot of people who have a little bit more study into trying to get a hold of Windows copies for cheap for Windows 10. You'll see a lot of people giving recommendations for Kingwin.
Yeah, well, I know CD keys. I was pretty certain also had it too. Maybe I'm getting the 2 conflated. That's entirely possible. I might have been mistaking Kingwin and CD keys, but I know that Kingwin and G2A are the 2 biggest in a lot of the gaming space, mostly because, well, Kingwin's probably, I think, the biggest actual gray market reseller in the gaming space. And then I think G2A is probably one of the most public, I should say, because they're the ones out there that are throwing sponsorships, scams at streamers and shit like that. And by the way, anybody from G2A ever stumbles across this shit and thinks, oh, hey, this might be a good idea to throw a sponsorship at those guys, I will print out. I will get printer paper. I will print out your offer for sponsorship. I will light it on fire and urinate it on it live on stream. Just to let you know.
You triggering your channel for pulling your dick out?
So, yeah. Streaming on stream. Wrong.
That's as bad as the guy that peed on the PS4.
That'll be the title of it. Streaming on stream. G2A Justice. Bam, right there. We just got the marketing thing. So, by all means, G2A, feel free to send me that offer of sponsorship.
Oh. Actually, it was funny. You remember a year ago when they got caught up in all the stolen keys and all the YouTubers that were sponsored by G2A made apology videos?
Yep. And that's
my
literally...
favorite was Level Cap.
Yeah,
I was dying there that whole video.
Well, and you have a lot of, and the thing is that I don't know if they actually offer like officially contracted sponsorship. I think a lot of it is that, hey, we'll give you a referral link and you can make some money on the back end if people click on that referral link. And I think like you get like PewDiePie, I think had one. You had a lot of big name guys who could actually probably make a bit of money off of that because they just have such a massive fan base. Law of averages, there's going to be some people who click on those links. You know what I mean? I think that's personally, I feel like that's a conflict of interest for some YouTubers, but PewDiePie isn't really a reviewer. He's, a personality. Aside from that, so let's go ahead and kind of roll this into our final thoughts on here. Given the nature of the gray market, the potential pitfalls, do you guys see if you were offered, like, kind of as the ultimatum on there, if you were offered just a great deal and for all intents and purposes seemed legitimate to you, from a gray key site, like for example, Mass Effect Andromeda comes out and you can get it for $30 day one from G2A, Kingwin, CD keys, whatever, versus paying $60 for it, would you go for it?
I do,
and be honest.
If I honestly believe it's legit, I do. I got doomed for like $35 doing that. Dark Souls 3 also.
What about you, Xaiphen?
See, here's like, if I had a good amount of validation and checks, or it also comes down to convenience of use too. One of the biggest thing that motivates my selection of games is Steam controller. How easily I can get it to work with that. I've abandoned a console controller at this point, but I still have not, effectively migrated to keyboard and mouse use, which is the universal control system for PC gaming. That's always going to work no matter where your options are. Well, since I'm not working well with that, Steam controller compatibility, is motivational driving point for me. So that I'm going to say no on most gray markets. I've gotten some GOG games to work with that before, but so gray market purchases may also work possibly.
They usually should, because they give you the digital code is what they do.
Yeah, true.
And when you go onto the gray key site, if you actually look on the publication, it'll tell you what platform it's on. Is it on Uplay? Is it on Steam, Origin, whatever?
Yeah.
So that way before you buy it, it'll tell you the region it's for.
Yeah.
As well. So I don't think your Steam controller should be a problem.
And by the way, just as kind of a closing on there, quick little shout out to Major Stupidity, because it was him that actually inspired this topic for this week.
Yeah.
When he posted up this Reddit conversation between a G2A seller and G2A themselves, and essentially how he was essentially exposing the fact that they don't check their keys worth of shit. They say they're verified keys and there's literally nothing on there. And they tried to debate him on it. And then his response was to literally show a photo by photo of him posting up a bogus bullshit key he just made up on there, and then it was immediately for sale on the site. He showed it on for sale and verified. And it was a bullshit key he literally just fabricated off the top of his head. And their response to it, they banned him from G2A. And he had money in his, because he was a seller on that site, he had money in his G2A wallet that they prevented him from collecting.
Well, here's the problem: is the way they didn't completely ban him, which is even worse.
Yeah,
they blocked him from being able to purchase, and they blocked him from being able to collect on his account.
Yep.
He was still able to post sales, and anything he had previously posted would still post or would still sell. In other words, they could collect off of shit that he was selling, but he couldn't.
Yep.
That's like,
and that was
really
theft.
That's outright theft.
Yeah, that is, yes. and that's kind of the that was what inspired this one on here, because I feel like that there's a lot of misnomers going around about the gray market. Fortunately enough, and like Kev said, it's like he would buy from it if it was a legitimate deal and everything was on the up and up, and I think a lot of people are that way, and I think that the problem is
a lot of people don't care. Like when I heard about gray keys, and you and I had these conversations before, where I had said, and this was my defense for it at the time, I don't know, I don't have enough information, I don't have a reason to believe that these aren't legitimate. Yeah, and that was my argument. Was I'm not going to say I'm not as cynical as Mort is. Well, Mort's like, okay, prove to me they're legit. my logic comes in, proving to me that they're not innocent before proven guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Where now I'm indifferent on it, and it's because of all the stuff that came out last year.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of incidences with them, and it's not to say that there isn't legitimate keys to be bought from those sites. No,
is it on the consumer though? And this is I guess a better question too. Is it the consumer's responsibility to make sure that these storefronts are on the up and up, or is it the legal system's responsibility?
no.
I mean, yes, the internet is the wild, wild west, but at some point, why don't we have any cease and desists on these websites if they're not legit?
Well, here's the thing: is that's where you get into legality. It's a gray market. For the most part, it's legal. Like they're not distributing pirated software for the most part. And anytime a legal matter does come up, like with Far Cry 4, it's handled swiftly and immediately, and everybody moves on their separate ways. I think the reason why that they can move about in that ways, that's where it's a gray market, not a black market, is they do steal stuff for the most part legitimately. I think the bigger issue on there is that what you run into with gray market sites in general is that they try to sell you on thriftiness at the cost of pretty much anything else.
Right, and that's very true, because I go there when it's like, I'm not like, I'll go there sometimes looking like I'm not sure about this game. I'm interested, but I don't know. And that's when I'll go and I'm like, okay, but I want to play it in the beginning because I like playing games usually when they come out. I'll usually look at it. I'll wait for some reviews, get it on a great key site.
Yep.
Versus to something like Neo. Neo, I bought it. Actually, I bought it an hour before it actually launched, which I guess is, I don't think of it as a pre-order because I looked at reviews before I bought it, and then I just went to the 9:00 release. But yeah, like literally, I was buying it like 8:15.
And I think like when we've had our kind of discussions about gray key sites before, and I think a lot of it was neither one of us had really enough information on it, and it's kind of stuff that's been slowly trickling out. It started like the Far Cry 4 incident kind of brought more light, I think, and like it made people start shining lights into that darkness, right? It was a dark room, nobody really knew what was going on, but now people started shining their lights in there, and now we're seeing, wait a minute. It's like when you start getting those developing country sales, there's nothing illegal there. I mean, and that's where I when we had a debate before on it, I talked about the whole difference of legality, illegal, ethical, unethical, ethically questionable, and I defined it as ethically questionable. It's not something that's clearly defined as ethical or unethical, but your personal views may vary, right?
Right, exactly. And I think a lot of companies, and I do put this on the publisher to protect their product. What I'm starting to see a lot with a lot of newer games, region locks, which I'm perfectly fine with. I'm starting to see a lot less global keys, and it's locked to Russia, it's locked to the UK, it's locked to Africa.
Yeah,
I'm seeing that on these great key sites a lot now.
One other point that I just remembered that you brought up is it on the consumer to make sure these sites are on the up and up? It is on the consumer to be informed about their purchase. So if you're gonna go out and blindly buy shit, No. I would say to a degree.
I don't think it's on the consumer to go and check on, say, GameStop's business practices.
I mean, that's if you want. That's the degree you want to get into it. What I mean is, like checking it, for example, checking if GameStop has the lowest price. That's just being a informed consumer. Checking if the game you're buying has good reviews and if it seems like a game you would like. That's being an informed consumer. That's usually where those are on the consumer. Yeah, that's usually where it stops, and that's perfectly fine. You don't have to go into the history of GameStop or do they spend their money into the diamond trade in Africa? Like shit like this.
Right. Yep. That's what I was getting at. That's exactly what I was getting at.
Yeah. But at a certain point, you should be always questioning things. If everybody else is selling a game for $60 and this one guy's like, hey, I got it for $25, at some point you really do have to be like, well, why is it 25 instead of 60?
I mean, if that were the case, wouldn't you question PC game sales? Because PC game sales tend to be cheaper than consoles.
Well,
if I'm looking at this from somebody coming from console to PC, then it's like, what do you mean games are cheaper on PC? No, they're not. They're not supposed to be. No, these are all illegal.
And no. You research them. First of all, those sales are happening on authorized retail markets, and then you actually research them and you realize, oh yeah, it's because PC consumers tend to be, on average, they're not all more informed, but on average, they tend to be more thrifty, and that's the expectation has been set that PC games will be cheaper. And so as a result, all the vendors in the regular market have to press for that. They have to do, like now, you play, and hell, even Xbox and PlayStation have now started doing summer and winter sales. You know, they did,
and I think they really started doing it because the PC sale. Like, I think this is the first generation of consoles where PC and console gamers really talk to each other because of social media.
Yep.
And now, especially like with YouTube, you're hearing these PC dudes saying like, "Oh, you need PC this, that," and the console like dudes like, "I don't get that." Like, when did console dudes didn't talk about resolutions and frame rates before this generation started? Because PC dudes were saying, "Why isn't your console 1080p? Why doesn't it do 60 frames per second?" Console dudes weren't asking for game sales like that because PC dudes were over here like, "Why are your games $60? Like, we haven't paid $60 for games in like 5 years." They're like, well, why do they have it so good over there and free online?
Yep.
And that's getting in the console dude's ear. That's forced Microsoft and Sony. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it.
Well, and I think a lot of it was that and this is probably something that's been very carefully swept under the rug because there is no mouthpiece for PC gaming per se. And I think that a lot of times there's been a pretty big flock, especially with the Xbox One PS4 release. There was a big flock of gamers to PC. You know, about the time that you and I and Xaiphen, you know, we all got into the PC gaming, about the same time everybody else was, you know, right? Like a lot of people flocked, and I think that made those OEMs.
Yeah, actually, I remember that because Major actually got in my ear. So I remember this was right after the Xbox One reveal. I remember where I'm at, and I'm asking everybody every day, "Hey, what are you doing? Where are we going?" Because I wanted to stick with everybody. I was really interested in the PS4, and then Major was like, "Check out Steam."
Yep.
I had a couple of the people then tell me from some of my music buddies when I was back more into music production, "Hey, check out Steam." Okay. Eventually, I just checked out Steam. Like, oh shit.
But yeah, in any case, we're gonna go ahead and get wrapped up here for it. You know, as we're now again almost 30 minutes over, and I think Xaiphen is starting to fall asleep at his.
I think Travis is already falling asleep.
Yeah. He's muted too. We went ahead and muted Xaiphen.
Fix that. my hotkey was not working properly.
I'm not feeling very well, so
yeah, he just enjoys the feel of vomit in the back of his mouth. I'm kidding. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and get closed down here for the day. Obviously, we have all of our social media stuff down in the descriptions. So if you're following on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, which I think most of the people are today, on YouTube you will find all of our links for Kev's, Xaiphen's, Travis's. All of our stuff is down there, including our Discord server. If you're on Twitch right now, you'll find most of the links to follow me, but you'll also find our Discord server for the Pixel Crashers community. Feel free to join. We'd love to have you. We get all sorts of people. We have people that play just on consoles and don't even have a PC, but they have. We
have somebody on there that seems that they only play on their phone and don't even play on any platform.
Yeah. So
I mean, yeah, we welcome people who just play games.
It doesn't matter.
So don't think that I'm a console player, I can't be a part of this.
Yeah,
no, as long as you're not an idiot, we're good.
Yeah, despite the name conveniently abbreviating to the PC podcast, we're not exclusive to PC. We're just pro consumer. So obviously, keep that in mind. Yeah,
another PC.
Let's talk about this. How I was playing a PS4 exclusive, talking about this all throughout the podcast.
Yep, exactly. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get signed off here for the night, guys. We will be back in 2 weeks for the next podcast. But we might see if we schedule something for next Saturday, maybe just like a smoke and joke session, maybe some Rainbow Six Siege or something like that, to get us all together and bullshitting or whatever. Well, Travis, he might not be.
I might just chime in audio.
Yeah, chime in audio.
We'll have him. We're gonna have a pinch player for him, probably with somebody else.
Yeah,
we'll have to do like a trash.
He'll describe what's going on.
Xaiphen will be playing Warframe while Morty's playing Dragon Age. I'll be playing Neo or something.
Yeah, there we go. That's the rule of thumb here, right? Is that we're gonna go that route. So anyway, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get signed off on here for the night. So anybody who's joining in, thanks for all the viewers in the chats and all that stuff. Much appreciated, guys. We'll be back in a couple weeks, and you guys all have a wonderful 2 weeks until we're back again.
Glorious.